So if you've been looking for remote work for several weeks, several months, some of these might sound familiar. You may have scrolled on LinkedIn, found a job you like, and thought, yes, this job's great. The company works out. I've checked them on Glassdoor. You've tweaked your CV. It's probably taken you a few hours. You started filling in the application form online and realized, it's not actually remote. They're asking me to be based in a specific location, in a country that I'm not from or a country I don't want to be in. Or worse still, they say it's remote and it's actually they're asking for you to come into the office one day a week or one day a month. Like they don't really understand what the term remote means. And you're basically anticipating those rejection emails. And that's if you're lucky. The ghosting that goes on now, where you're sending countless applications, you're getting in touch with people and they just don't respond, actually, rejection emails are a blessing because at least you're getting a response, right? So imagine this instead. Imagine sending half the number of applications, getting connections to remote companies, getting real introductions to people, and actually getting a job that aligns with your values. And when I use the term job here, I don't just mean a J-O-B job. I mean anything where you're paid to work remotely. So that can be whatever that looks like for you. So I didn't always have this life of freedom. This was me back in 2014 when I worked in an office in London. I know some of you may have known me back then. I wasn't so healthy. I wasn't so happy. I drank quite a lot. I was living in a tiny flat in London, paying a fortune. And London wasn't my happy place. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I really realized how unhappy I was. So I started having to think about what is my happy place, or where is my happy place? And for me, that is in the ocean. In the ocean, around the ocean, near it, on the beach, diving, surfing, whatever that looks like. And it's somewhere tropical. And I don't know whoever's been to the UK, but it's not exactly tropical climates. So I wanted to get out. So I seized the opportunity in April 2021. My friend said that Bali was his happy place. And I was like, okay, the office in London is closed. There's a lockdown. Why don't I go to Bali and see what it's like while I've got the opportunity? And then, I'm in my 30s. I've just got to go back and live a normal life after that. So I thought I'd do this temporarily. And I was there for 2 months. And when the 2 months came, my boss called me and said, Michelle, it's time to come back. The office in London is opening, and you need to come back. And I felt sick. I had this pit in my stomach feeling where I was like, I can't go back to that life. I've got an amazing life here. I'm surfing in the morning. I've got a great group of people. I've got a community. I'm still working my 8 hours a day. I'm probably being more productive. And I just couldn't bear the thought of going back to that life. So I quit, and I started the search for remote work. I thought, I've never struggled to get a job before. This is going to be easy. And it was a lot harder than I expected. Companies either companies were returning back to the office and they no longer believed in this fully remote, or they would say, yeah, you can be remote, but you need to be back in the UK, or whatever country that was. There was no such thing as we don't care where you work from. There was all of these restrictions. So I tweaked things a little bit, and I figured, I've got 7 years of recruitment experience. I can use the knowledge that I've got in hunting down candidates to hunting down jobs and reverse engineering it. And I had my aha moment. I thought, right, I tweaked things, and then a couple of weeks later, I got 2 freelance gigs helping startups to hire remotely. And I was consulting with them on how to do this remotely. And then I figured, there's something else. I want to be able to help other people do this, so other people can get remote work as well, and it's not just helping out these companies. I could help individuals. So that was July 2021. I set up Remote Rebellion, and I've been helping hundreds of people to land remote jobs ever since. Thanks. Thank you. I'm not finished. That's me banging on for a little bit about me, so I want to hear from you. Now, I want to ask you if you can all stand up, for those of you who can. Sorry, I want to get some blood pumping a little bit. Thank you. And I want you to stay standing if you have been actively seeking or actively searching for remote work in the last 6 months, let's say. So stay stood up. Don't be shy. Thank you. And you may already have a remote job now. I'm not looking out for people who are searching. And I want you to stay stood up if you've been searching for longer than a couple of months before you found anything. For those of you stood up, I want to have a look around the room. I want you to have a look around the room and realize that you're not on your own. Because so many people think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I've been searching for ages. Why can't I get anything? You start to doubt yourself. And it's not you. You can sit down now. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. So people feel like they take it so internally, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? But the remote job market is so competitive. So for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the remote job market, about my freedom framework to get a remote job faster. So really high-level summary here. What are your options? I mentioned before that you could either work as a freelancer, contractor, or be employed by an organization. People get so bogged down with like, yeah, well, what does it mean with the tax and the time zones? Worry about that later to a certain degree. Figure out what you actually want first. Do you want something permanent, full-time? Do you want something freelance? Do you want something contract? And as I also mentioned, the remote job market is super competitive. This graph shows that of all the jobs advertised on LinkedIn, only 9% of them are remote. And that includes all of the BS remote ones you see that are actually hybrid. And 43% of all applications go to that 9%. So it's no wonder that with this whole supply and demand, it's no wonder people are not getting responses. There's just so many more applications than there are remote jobs. So doing the same thing that you've done in the past, using the same methods, is not necessarily going to work. And finding your ideal job is a little bit like finding your ideal partner. It's hard, and you have to be flexible in some of the requirements. And also, there's no such thing as the perfect job. And for that matter, or the perfect partner. Something's got to give again. So where do you start? Where do you start to avoid being this person who's at the top of a slope with no way to get up? These are some of the things needed just to get an interview for a remote job. Most people want to go straight into amending their CV, updating their LinkedIn, but that's almost like building a house without really having a clear picture on paper what your house is going to look like. And there's some things that are arguably just as important, if not more important, to get the ideal remote job. This is my freedom framework that I'm going to walk through today. I'm going to walk through every step. Like I said, it's a high-level overview of what you need to do in order to get the ideal remote job, remote work, whatever you want to call it. The F is for figuring out what you want. Now, I know most of you probably think, I know what I want. I want this job title. I want this salary. You might have a good idea, but get really clear on what your ideal looks like for you. And it's figuring out what your ideal is, what you're happy to accept, and what your absolute non-negotiables are. And that's going to be different to you than it is to someone else. Your non-negotiable might be that you never want to work weekends, or that you don't want to work over 40 hours. That's okay, but get really true to yourself of what your ideal looks like. And after a few weeks, few months searching, nothing's happening, then you can go to your happy to accept. Don't just go straight down to the bottom of the barrel. Aim high, and if it's not working, you adjust your strategy. So do you want freelance? Do you want perm? What level of remote or flexibility do you want? What kind of industries? Do your research on salaries. Because the same way as dating, if you go in just being desperate for anything, I just want to get any remote job, no one likes desperation. It's not attractive. And it's a similar kind of way in dating. The same way, if you go in and you're not sure what you want, or you don't declare and tell someone what you want, you're both going to waste a hell of a lot of your time. R is for refining a strategy, because a goal without a plan is just simply a wish. So just sending off applications willy-nilly isn't a strategy. You need something in place. You need to have processes. You need to be tracking your applications. It's not just a numbers game. Some people think that the spray and pray method works. I don't necessarily feel like that's a good strategy, because what happens is the more applications you make that you don't put time and consideration into, the more rejection emails, the more ghosting, and the more that's going to affect your confidence. And once your confidence is shot, it's very hard to get that back up again. And that doesn't just affect in your job search, it affects all areas of life. I have so many people come to me where they just don't believe in themselves. They just had rejection after rejection, even for jobs that they didn't even want in the first place. So don't go with that spray and pray method. Sometimes it works for some people, but it's really going to have a knock-on effect. So the targeting of specific companies is a really good approach as well. Don't just go for live open jobs. Target companies that you want to work for as well. Work smarter. There's so many tools out there that can help you. I'm always talking about Teal. I feel like I need to get an affiliate link with them because they're just really good. You can tweak your applications with them. You can organize the companies that you're interested in. Or if you prefer, just use a standard old Google Sheets or a notepad, whatever way you need to stay organized. Track the applications you've made and follow up a couple of weeks later. Don't just wait for them to come to you. Time blocking is a really good method. I'm a morning person. I do the best work in the first few hours of the day. So if I was looking for a job, I would allocate 1 to 2 hours in the morning for job applications. And then in the evening, when I'm at lower energy, I would save that for the scrolling and the finding of the jobs. So find times in the day that work for you and block it through your time schedule and your energy levels. And whatever you do, don't try and do this 7 days a week, especially if you're working full time. You need a break. Just like you need a rest day from the gym, you need a rest day from your job search because you're going to burn out if you continue. And think of this as a long-term strategy, not just short-term. I mentioned before, not just applying to open jobs, but when you're making those connections and you're finding companies that you're interested in, you're researching, think of this as your foundation for future job searches, especially if you're freelancing. You're going to want to make these connections with different people, and they may remember you years later. I've had people come to me to say that they remembered the call that we had 2 years ago when I was working in recruitment, and they said, "Oh, I just remember you were one of the good guys that listened to me and wanted to know what I was doing." I ended up placing that person in another company because they remembered me and came to me. So be nice, be a good human, and give something back as well, because people will remember that. E is for extending your search. People tend to just go to LinkedIn or maybe 1 or 2 job boards, but there's over 150 job boards that have specialisms, either in remote work or in a specific industry. So LinkedIn is where all the competition goes. You'll get hundreds of applications to those jobs, whereas these more niche job boards that not many people know about, they won't get as many applications. So seek out the ones that work in your field. This is just some of them on there, but there's tons out there. So seek those out, do your research, and actually set up alerts for the kind of jobs that you want to see. Then target specific remote companies and work from anywhere companies. Don't try and convince the companies that you like that you can work from anywhere when you don't have any connection with them, because they get tons of applications. So if they don't know you and don't know the kind of work that you can do, they're highly unlikely to make allowances. So instead, target companies you want to work for, even if they don't have an open job, and make those connections and reach out. You could even do a quick Loom video introduction if you didn't want to do a standard cover letter. And then Google Advanced Searching. I could do a whole presentation on Google Advanced Searching. This is what recruiters will refer to as a Boolean search. So when I was headhunting candidates, this is the way I would do it. So it's essentially reverse engineering this for the kind of jobs that you're looking for. And you can use keywords such as industries, the remote work keyword, so you want to put 100% fully work from anywhere. And this will show up jobs that won't necessarily be on LinkedIn or on certain job boards. It's amazing what you can find as well. Don't just think of this as looking for jobs. Again, be open-minded, and when you're doing this search, think, okay, I might find some articles, I might find some people to follow, I might find some companies that I didn't know existed. So keep an open mind when you're doing this search. Networking. It's underrated. Everyone says, oh, you need to network to get a job these days, but they don't really go into detail about what that means. And it's underestimated, but wildly done so badly. People just go out like, hey, can I have a job? And that's not going to get you anywhere. When you're networking, you really need to give back, especially if you're in a community. So this is not only going to increase the number of opportunities when done right, but it will also increase your chances of actually getting the job. And then private communities are a goldmine for finding jobs that you wouldn't necessarily find on other platforms. Almost every Slack group that you can imagine will have a jobs channel. So you can set up preferences and set up reminders when there's job titles that you're looking for will come up in there, so you don't have to check them every day. Then there's loads of social media groups. There's Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, albeit a lot of them are pretty spammy and have a lot of scams, so you've got to kind of weed through a few of them to find some good ones. I recommend if it's a pretty specific area or niche that you're going into, paying a little bit for decent communities will pay off because it will filter through the rubbish like you get in a lot of Facebook groups. And they can be remote or industry specific. Can't get my words out. Okay, so moving into applying now, and I just want to hear some shout out of answers. How long do you think it takes the average recruiter to look at your CV? 3 seconds? 6 seconds? 5? You're all really close. Whoever said 6 seconds is correct. It's just 6 seconds. I think some people think it's a lot longer, but you guys are pretty spot on, so that's good. So just 6 seconds is how long you've got to grab the recruiter or the hiring manager's attention. So they're not going to go and look at every single word, and as much as you might have been told that a bot is looking at your CV and a human doesn't actually see it the first time, it's bullshit. Like, I've worked for many companies, I've spoken to many recruiters. 9 times out of 10, it will be a human reading your CV, unless there's a knockout question, such as, do you have 10 years of experience in X, Y, Z? And if you say no, then it will go do an auto-rejection. But if it's not one of those questions and it's just a CV being uploaded, more than likely a human's going to be reading that. So how can you grab their attention in that first fold on the screen to make them think, I want to have a look more, I want to have a little bit look and see what this person can do. So show that value. And size matters, but not as much as you think. So 1 page is what everyone thinks they have to put on there, but it's actually 2 to 3 pages is kind of the golden number. And I know especially the North Americans in the room will be like, no, it has to be 1 page. We've been brainwashed into thinking it's just 1 page. But as long as there's value and as long as you're getting that message across and there's metrics and there's data backing up your claims, that's the main thing that matters. And it depends. A 3-4 page CV, if you've got like 2 years of experience, probably not. But if you've got 10, 15 years of experience that you want to really portray and it's important, then 2 to 3 pages is completely acceptable. And it's content over design every single time. Whatever you think you need to spend on making this really pretty, attractive Canva CV, you don't need to spend that amount of time. So it's all about the content. Always personalize your cover letter and revamp your LinkedIn so that's a close match to your CV. And always track and follow up. You never know. You might have been lost in that black hole of CVs, and someone just didn't get around to messaging you back, or whatever the reason. People are busy. Follow up. I haven't got time to go through all of these today because I'm short on minutes. There is going to be time for questions. But here are some things to avoid doing and some of the things that you must do. The summary of here is basically to stand out for the right reasons. Personal